This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you?
Boring. 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 Boring.
You gotta work. Don't tell us what we're gonna feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're gonna feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that. Remember this. You're in no position to dictate what we're gonna feel.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
Welcome back to another edition of Lembertopic Live with me, Lembertopic, here on unprecedented.tv, where we find the facts, kill the spin, and tell it like it is as best we can. Today, we're going to talk about Labour, whether it's in crisis, whether the debacle, you might use that word, that Keir Starmer has experienced in terms of the vote on PIPs, personal independence payments reforms, means that his leadership has been weakened. Joining me now in a few minutes' time, it's going to be Nick Buckley, a former mayoral candidate in Manchester. He had an axe to grind, a very legitimate axe as well in terms of the way he's been treated by the establishment. But let me set the scene first of all. For months, the Labour Party has been talking about reforming welfare because there's a huge price tag to it. Lots of people getting money for disability, and some of them making really a mockery of the system. Apparently, someone's getting a disability allowance for acne, and I'm not really convinced that's a great reason to get it. And other people claiming for what seem like spurious reasons. Nevertheless, many people feel that the PIP payments are absolutely vital for their standard of living to make sure that they don't end up in poverty or worse. So there's been a big debate about this. Everything came to a head yesterday in Parliament. That was on the 1st of July. And the government ended up doing not just one U-turn, but a series of U-turns. Even in the 11th hour of the debate, they put another amendment in and pretty much took everything about the PIPs out of the legislation. Despite this, dozens of Labour MPs still voted against the bill. And there were angry exchanges, impassioned speeches, and some would say a further hit to Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister's credibility. So where does this leave us? I would suggest that Keir Starmer, with this flagship legislation and an enormous majority, let's not forget, a huge majority in Parliament, has actually wounded himself by not judging the mood of his own party. It's really hard to believe that someone who has something around 412 MPs out of 650 can't do as he pleases. But in fact, Starmer's taken his eye so far off the ball that the end result here was a humiliating climb down, although managed by his ministers, including the very capable Stephen Timms. I was in Parliament with him myself. I've always respected him. Despite his ministers taking the hit on the floor of the House, Keir Starmer himself takes the hit in terms of his party. Let me tell you something for nothing, and we'll probably come back to this with Nick Buckley in a moment. Once you've rebelled once, you can rebel again. It's easy after you've done it the first time. The big question, therefore, is where does this leave Keir Starmer, the Labour Party, and most importantly for us, the country? Do we have a government that is respected? I'll give you one more opinion of my own, and then we can go into the details with Nick Buckley, MBE, I should say. 1 year, almost to the day, since Keir Starmer became Prime Minister, he's lost control of his party. And this isn't surprising because I think he lost control of his narrative before he even started in Downing Street. Why do I say that? I say it because I don't see a man who really understands his party, his MPs, or the country. He's made a lame excuse to say that he took his eye off the ball because he was doing international things. But let's remember, he commands no real respect on the international stage. His coalition of the willing has just become a self-important memory rather than something which has delivered anything significant. He's been snubbed, almost derided by the President of the United States, Donald Trump, who didn't even bother to tell Keir Starmer he was going to bomb Iran, causing Starmer to look like an idiot when he came back and said that wasn't going to happen, and 48 hours later it did. And now we see this humiliating confrontation, which Keir Starmer essentially lost by having to scrap billions of pounds worth of savings from the welfare budget. Let's not even get into the implications for the promise from Rachel Reeves of not increasing taxes, not coming back for more taxes, because it seems all but inevitable that she will. So, is Labour in crisis? If they are, what should happen? Joining me now is somebody who's given Labour a great run for their money before. It's Nick Buckley. Nick, good to see you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Thanks very much for joining us. I think you're on holiday, so I'm kind of intruding on that. But nevertheless, very grateful for your sage counsel. I'm sure even though you're on holiday at the moment, you've seen what happened in Parliament. You've taken on Labour before, and interestingly enough, your former opponent, the Labour Mayor of Manchester, Andy Burnham, would tend to side with the rebels. He actually said something quite clear about that. But starting with the big picture here, what do you think? Where does this leave Keir Starmer and the Labour Party, the fact that they had to pretty much pack in the changes they were going to make?
It leaves them in exactly the same situation they were a week ago, which is a failing government with a failing Prime Minister who don't know what they're doing. Nobody knows what the vision of Labour is anymore. They are just going from one disaster to another disaster. Even his MPs don't know what the party stands for anymore. Who would have thought that Labour could get away with cutting welfare and cutting benefits and cutting the winter fuel allowance? We'd never heard of any of this before the election. So therefore, all the MPs, none of the MPs really want this because they're looking at their seats and thinking, I'm not getting elected again. And Keir Starmer is a middle manager. That's all that he is. That's all he's ever been, is a middle manager. He has no idea about leadership. He has no idea about creating a vision. He's very good at being told what to do, then doing what he's been told to do. And that's what a middle manager is. And that's why we're in such a mess in the last, we've been in a mess for a couple of decades, but he's making it worse. And there's not a chance in hell he's going to come up with anything that's going to help the country move past where we are now.
He goes to these events like NATO. We see him there talking in NATO conferences, making these grand statements, but no one really seems to be listening. Whatever happened to his coalition of the willing? It seems to be a coalition of the wilting, him and Macron. They don't hang around so much together anymore. Why does he think that he's this great statesman prancing around the world while his own party's rebelling?
He's looking internationally because that's how he gets any half-decent press. He gets in all the papers, he gets on the BBC. It makes him look like a world statesman because at home, he's not considered that. He's not considered a good statesman. Have you noticed over the last year, he never goes to public events in this country because people boo him, people shout at him. And so he doesn't do anything in public now in the UK because the bad press it generates. So he goes externally, he goes across the world, hoping for some good sound bites, hoping he gets on TV. And so he looks prime ministerial, so he looks presidential, so he looks like someone who should be respected because he doesn't get that in his own country. Because regardless of who you are, nobody thinks Keir Starmer is doing a good job.
Yeah. But when you look at him there, it just doesn't look authoritative. He looks like some sort of stuttering, as you say, middle manager. Very good phrase, Nick, who answers in this cardboard cutout way, doesn't seem to command a room. In fact, in the clip we're showing there, that press conference, it went badly for him. It was pretty much a road crash where nobody was treating him like an international statesman. They were just asking him questions about things that he was doing wrong. I mean, it seems to me that he just doesn't command the floor. He doesn't have this presence that you would expect in a prime minister. Is this because he can't do it, because he just hasn't got the competence? Incidentally, I'll put my cards on the table. I think that is the issue. I don't think he's intelligent enough, and I don't think he has the leadership to do it. Or am I missing something?
2 points there. The first point is, even though that interview, that performance he just did wasn't fantastic, it's still a hell of a lot better than what it would look like if he tried to do that in the UK to a crowd of people at a demonstration and anything like that. He'd be booed, he'd be screamed at. So at least it still wasn't fantastic, but at least it was contained. But him as an individual, I mean, he's obviously very intelligent, but there's different. Just because you're intelligent doesn't mean you're good at everything. And he has no communication skills. He's not a visionary. He doesn't understand the people, because he's never been part of the people. Privileged upbringing. He's worked in the public sector all his life. He's got no understanding of the public and what we want. He has been indoctrinated at university throughout his adolescence. He knows the world he wants to create, and he's following someone else's plan, and that's why nothing's working, because he can't think on his feet. I mean, some of the things he's tried to implement, yes, I sort of agree where he's coming from, but everything is done at such a poor level with no consultation. He can't bring his MPs on board. And even if he can't bring his MPs on board, he's got a huge majority. He should kick 100 out the party, because I'll tell you this, the most important thing to MPs is being re-elected again, to keep on the gravy train. There's hardly any MPs who are that committed to the people that they will resign. Never happens. He needs to kick so many out if he wanted to take control of his party. But he hasn't got the backbone. He hasn't got the vision. Why kick him out when he doesn't even know what he wants himself? The whole thing is a clown show, and it has been since day one, and it's never going to get any better.
Do you think the problem he's got is that his party doesn't really respect him? He goes around trying to look serious, like he does in that picture there, and goes around trying to look like a statesman, but his own party doesn't really respect that. Do you think his problem is that he actually didn't win the general election? He basically got a third of the vote, 2/3 of the country voted against him, in fact, and as a result of that, he stumbled into Downing Street, but he's never really commanded the respect of the general public.
That's part of it, but I think the big issue is he never had a plan. Yeah. He spent 13 years in opposition and didn't develop a plan, a vision, a new way of doing things, and spent years telling the people, explaining to the people, getting the people on board, making sure his MPs do, this is the vision. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, but when we get the downs, it's because of these reasons, and we may have some downs, but it's going to lead to sunny uplands. And he never sold anybody a vision at all. So he came into power, and everyone believed he was going to do what they wanted him to do, because that's how he thought he got into power, by never telling anybody what they were going to do and always nodding along. So everybody thought he was going to do what they wanted him to do, and that was never going to be the case. He spent 13 years, and Labour spent 13 years just planning to get into power, but that's where the planning stopped, and it's been a crap show since day one. And now, I mean, you're right when you said the hardest thing for an MP to do is rebel for the first time, because they're scared of being kicked out of the party. They're scared of all the consequences. But several have done it several times now, and loads have done it yesterday. So they're not scared anymore now, and it becomes a habit. He's lost his MPs, he's lost the backbenchers, he's never had the public. The economy's crashing. You know, we're losing free speech. It would take to save this country now. It would take a modern version of a Margaret Thatcher. So not her policies I'm talking about, but someone with that backbone, someone with that determination, that grit, someone who says to the people, "This is what I'm doing over the long term. And if you don't like it, don't vote for me next time." But all we've got now is the same old, same old. We've got a poor version of Boris Johnson. He'll tell you whatever you want to hear, but he's got no intentions of doing any of the hard work. He's got no intentions of improving the country. He'll just do what he's told to do, but he'll do it with a smile and a giggle and make you feel better while he's killing the country. Starmer's doing exactly the same, except there's no smile and there's no giggle.
Your former competitor, Andy Burnham, the mayor of Manchester, he's actually been quite acerbic about Keir Starmer's position. He said something like, "Well, here we are. In fact, let me just show you if I can." He said basically, "Keep the rebellion going." That's what he was saying, and he was encouraging people to rebel against Keir Starmer. Now, I'm really surprised by that, because I wouldn't have expected a Labour mayor to be so willing to actually criticise the actual sitting Prime Minister. I wonder why is that? Why is someone like Andy Burnham willing to speak out?
I've been saying for several years now, Andy Burnham is waiting to be Prime Minister. He's waiting to become an MP again, and he's waiting to take over from Keir Starmer. That's been his plan for several years, to be Prime Minister. He's clever enough to know not to have his fingerprints on the dagger that finally terminate Keir Starmer, because as we know, if you ever study politics, the person who gets rid of the Prime Minister never becomes the next Prime Minister. So he's making sure he's a couple of steps away. I've heard lots of rumours, so everything I'm going to say now are rumours, but I believe them to be fairly true. Andy Burnham has tried once or twice now to become an MP again, but has been blocked by Keir Starmer and Keir Starmer's office. So because they see him as the number one threat, and he is the number one threat. I don't agree with Andy Burnham on virtually everything. I think he's a poor politician. But when you look across the spectrum of all the other Labour politicians, by God, Andy Burnham's head and shoulders above everybody you could even name who's a Labour politician. Even I know that, and I'm a political enemy of Andy Burnham. Even I think he's the best they've got. So Keir Starmer doesn't want him.
It's interesting you would say that, because I've kind of got the same feeling about Andy Burnham. I know him reasonably well. I was an MP with him, actually, and he's clearly better than Keir Starmer. Does that mean that if people like Andy Burnham are willing to speak out against Starmer, they're already planning the succession?
Yeah, I mean, you know more about politics than me. There's always someone plotting. There's always someone trying to take down the leader or trying to take down a minister, because somebody always wants those jobs. So someone's always plotting. I think Andy Burnham's doing two things at the moment. I think he's damaging Keir Starmer, but he's also sending a signal to all the Labour MPs that I'm not for this. And if I'm ever Prime Minister, we're never having policies like this. So he's sending the message to everybody that, look at me, I'm King of the North. I'm a very successful Labour politician. I'm the Prime Minister, basically, of Greater Manchester. Look how everybody adores me. And to be fair, Andy Burnham is still very popular in Greater Manchester. Why? I couldn't give you an answer, but he is. And he's sending those messages to the backbenches going, you come and get me, and I'll save you at the next election.
So that's pretty much the game plan. That's interesting. And then we got, I'll just mention her briefly, Angela Rayner, who insists so often that she doesn't want to be Prime Minister or leader of the party that she obviously does, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But she's not exactly, let's be honest, a genius, is she? She's not going to win the Nobel Prize for physics.
I think Angela Rayner gets a hard time. She does suffer from classism because she has an accent, and she may be as thick as as anybody else. She may be, but a lot of the negative judgment against her is about her accent, and I hear that all the time. Now, of course, she wants to be Prime Minister. She's a Deputy Prime Minister. I want to be Prime Minister. Anybody who tells you they don't want to be Prime Minister is a fool or a liar. So she wants to be Prime Minister. I think if I had to put money on Keir Starmer's replacement, my money goes on Angela Rayner at the moment. I think she's almost a shoo-in. She's left wing. She's got the unions behind her. Labour have never had a female Prime Minister, so it ticks that box. She is obviously working class. She's from a deprived background. At the moment, my money is on Angela Rayner replacing Keir Starmer.
That's interesting. I mean, as you say, she's one step off the role. If Starmer is out of the country, as he is very often, then it's Angela Rayner who takes the dispatch box for Prime Minister's questions. I don't rate her. I've debated against her, and I've always thought of her as very superficial. I'm interested. You're actually more sympathetic and more positive about her than I am. My issue with her is hypocrisy. I won't go into it now because we're not really here to talk mainly about Angela Rayner. But I do recognise the point you're saying. There's a certain amount of class snobbery in it as well. Returning to Keir Starmer is an interesting statistic. These are his voting figures. Votes in the first year, 7. Maybe it's gone up by 1 now, I think. Rishi Sunak, 22. Boris Johnson, 57. Theresa May, 53. David Cameron, 37. Gordon Brown, 41. Tony Blair, 13. So Keir Starmer has voted less often in the first year of his prime ministership than any of his recent predecessors, any of them. And I wonder if this has anything to do with the fact, Nick, that he said that he'd rather be in Davos than Westminster. He prefers the unelected, elitist, money-grabbing World Economic Forum to Parliament, which he's meant to serve.
I think you're spot on. Keir Starmer is not a Democrat. Most of the Labour MPs are not Democrats. A big chunk of Tory MPs are not Democrats. We don't have democracy anymore in the UK. What we have now is an elite group who think they are our overlords and masters, and they don't think they're our servants anymore now. So they tell us what to do. They tell us what they're going to do. They tell us to be quiet. So therefore, he doesn't see the importance of Parliament. He doesn't even think Parliament, like you said, he doesn't think Parliament is the supreme governing body of this land. He thinks it's the UN. He thinks it's the EU. He thinks it's Davos. He thinks it's all these international treaties we've signed up to. Where I'm the complete opposite. Power of this country should and should always remain in our Parliament, because our Parliament is supposed to be a representative democracy where we send our people to represent us. Once they get there, they stop representing us. They start representing the party. They start representing themselves. They start representing Palestine or Israel or the Ukraine. And we need a whole new set of politicians with a whole different outlook on life.
His position on Ukraine is an interesting one. He seems to be obsessed with the idea of helping Volodymyr Zelensky, but Zelensky's not exactly a great catch, is he? He's a losing and, in my view, tremendously inexperienced politician who can't run a war. Why does he hang around with Zelensky all the time?
Because he needs an enemy. Because every failing country, every dictatorship needs an external enemy. Because you need someone to blame when things go wrong. You need someone that the general public can concentrate their hatred on. Because if they don't have an external enemy to be fearful of and hate, then they start looking internally, and we end up looking at our leaders. Keir Starmer talked the other day, a couple of days ago, about we need to get ready on a war footing because it's going to hit the homeland, and what I think he didn't name the enemy. What I think he meant by that was he knows there's going to be civil disturbances in the UK over the next few years. We've had enough. There's going to be more Ballymenas. There's going to be more Southport riots. And he's going to twist that narrative that these are funded and started by foreign enemies and foreign groups. And that's why I'm clamping down hard on them, because people are being manipulated by Russia and Iran and Korea. And he's already setting the stage now for more authoritarian laws and a more authoritarian approach to the general public. But to get away with it, he needs an enemy. And what better enemy than those big evil Russians?
Yeah, but we haven't got a chance against Russia. We've got 29 tanks that work. Russia's got thousands. Does he think anyone is taking him seriously on these things anymore?
He doesn't care. As long as he can scare the right amount of the public, then he can carry on doing what he's doing, because nobody wants the country to be invaded. Nobody wants Russia to bomb us. So as long as he can scare the public enough, he can get away with what he wants to get away with. You're right, Russia's no threat to Western Europe. Russia can't even beat Ukraine. They're not going to beat any of the Western countries. And they're definitely not a threat to the UK. But like I said, we need an enemy so we can control the people better.
Yeah, but we're making Russia into that enemy.
Yeah,
and in a ridiculous way. There's no reason for Russia to invade and conquer Britain. Just imagine. They'd have to fix all the problems caused by Labour for a start. So I don't see Russia really fishing to control Britain. Big picture then, Keir Starmer essentially lost the vote. Although he won it numerically, he lost the vote yesterday because he's caused that great big rebellion. And as I said earlier, and you've said also, once you've rebelled once, you can do it again and again and again, because your copybook is marked. You're probably less likely to become a minister under the Prime Minister. And also you've got a motivation to get rid of the incumbent Prime Minister and get a new one who doesn't hate you or doesn't think of you as a rebel. So in terms of Starmer, the big debate that I hear, especially from people in Reform UK, is will there be an early election? Now, I don't think there will be. I don't think that Keir Starmer has any motivation or any vested interest in going early. I think we're going to stagger on under Labour till 2029. But what's your opinion?
I don't think Labour and Starmer will call an early election, but I think there will be an early election. We cannot go on like this for another 4 years. Something external will happen and will force us into an early election. So what possibly could be those things? It could be a series of terrorist attacks. It could be mass rioting. It could be the start of what I've been predicting, an urban civil war. It could be a new war in the Middle East. There's many, well, a good one would be our economy crashing. We're almost there. So I can't see us plodding along for another 4 years. I think this government will fall. But you're right, it won't be, they won't call the election. It'll be external influences that force it to happen.
Of course, Manchester missed out on the best mayor they could possibly have had, which of course is you.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's a great picture, actually. You're much more photogenic than I am. What, just out of interest, really, what are your plans? Are you planning to stand again?
I'm hoping to. I'm not sure how or when or whatever. I'm not going to stand as independent again because there's no point. I'm not in it just to take part, just to virtue signal that look at me, I'm standing up for the people, knowing I've got not a chance in hell to win. I joined Reform UK at Christmas. I resigned a couple of weeks ago. I'm disillusioned with them. They're a pro-migration party. So I don't know. I'm taking a look at Advance UK. I'm looking at everything. All I'm going to be doing at the moment is trying to awaken more and more British people to the mess we're in and try to educate them about why we're in the mess we're in. Because partly it's their fault for not being better citizens, not being more intelligent voters. And we need the people to wake up, because I believe in democracy, and democracy got us into this mess, and democracy has to get us out of this, because if it doesn't, we are looking at mass violence.
You really do think that there's a threat of civil unrest then?
More and more as every week goes by. I'm having more and more conversations with here's an example. Old friend of mine, been friends 40 years. And he's telling me next week he's looking forward to the mass violence because he's had enough, because he feels like a failure. He feels like his country's dying. He feels like a coward that he's never done anything about it up to now. And he's telling me, sober, he's telling me he's looking forward to the days we get mass violence. I'm not saying he's going to be violent, but the fact that he can think like that and tell me those things means we're in big trouble, and no one can see it. Only few people can see it coming. And I'm telling people, I'm talking to working class men all over the country, and some of them have had enough. And violence is the next step if we don't change direction, if we don't do it quick.
Yeah, just to stress, you're obviously not advocating it.
No,
but
hence why I want to talk about it, because I want people to see what's coming, because I believe there's still time to change direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. It's I'm sorry to bring you down when you're away, but they're somber words and something that I think we need to really take very seriously. Nick, I'll let you get back to your holiday, hopefully to your breakfast. Thanks very much for being with us. It's always fascinating to talk with you, because you've really got a perspective that needs to be heard. Have your say. Go to the chat on X, and if you've done it before, you'll know I tend to respond. Nick Buckley, MBE there, former mayoral candidate, independent at the time, saying that we could be heading towards civil disturbance in this country, as happened in Southport, for example, and in Ballymena. Interestingly, in both cases, in response to harm to children. I wonder what you think. What does Keir Starmer need to do to steady the ship? Can he make it to 2029? Many say it's just not going to happen that way anymore, that Keir Starmer's lost his authority. Others say he never had it. You can have your say as well. Big thank you to Nick Buckley, MBE. Big thank you to the team as well. But more than anything, thank you to you for watching. On a separate matter, we've got some big shows to look forward to. Tim Scott Uncancelled. Tim Scott, who's the Supremo at the Freedom Association. His show is going to be starting on a regular basis. And we're going to have Basil Valentine with the Basil Valentine Show as well. All of that coming with unprecedented.tv. Hope you enjoyed this. Have a good day wherever you are. We filmed this live, and you can watch it as live anytime you want. If you like it, please do retweet it. Tell your friends. I'm Len Bitopic. This is Len Bitopic live on unprecedented.tv. Have a good
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you?
Boring. 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 Boring.
You got it work. Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages,